Hello and welcome to a short video about solving quadratics using the quadratic equation. Now this is the quadratic equation here. When ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, we know that x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now b squared minus 4ac is the discriminant. If b squared minus 4ac is positive, so it's bigger than 0, we'll get two solutions. If b squared minus 4ac equals 0, there'll only be one solution because it just touches the x-axis. And if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, so it's negative, there are no solutions to the equation. Well, if you think about why, you'd be ending up with a square root of a negative number if b squared minus 4ac was less than 0, which, unless you're dealing with complex numbers, we would say there's no solution, it won't cross the axis. So we've got this equation here, 3x squared plus 5x minus 2 equals 0, and the question just asked me to solve it. Now we can solve quadratic equations using factorising, using completing the square by drawing a graph, but if it doesn't tell us which method to use, lots of people find using the quadratic equation the easiest because we're just going to be doing the same thing every time. The first thing I want to do is identify my a, b and c. So a is 3 because it says 3x squared, b is 5 because it says plus 5x, and c is minus 2. It's that number on its own at the end. If you compare that to ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So after I've got those, all I need to do is substitute them into the equation. So I know that x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'm just going to substitute in the numbers that I've got. So x is minus 5 plus or minus, and the reason it's plus or minus is normally there's two solutions. 5 squared minus 4 times 3 times minus 2 all over 2 times 3. And when we put that onto our calculator, I get minus 5 plus or minus the square root of 49 all over 6. So we can see that the square root there is 49 is 7. I'll have minus 5 minus 7, so minus 12 over 6, or minus 5 plus 7, so or 2 over 6, so it's minus 2 or a third. So I'm going to do the same here. When it says find the roots, that's the same as saying let's let it equal 0 and solve it. So we've got 5x squared minus 10x minus 1 equals 0. A is 5, b is minus 10, and c is minus 1. And again, I'm going to substitute it into my equation. X is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x is minus 10, so plus 10, plus or minus the square root of minus 10 squared minus 4 times 5 times minus 1 all over 2 times 5. So put that in the calculator, we get 10 plus or minus the square root of 120 all over 10. Now this is where the beauty of this method comes in. In the previous example we got a whole number answer, but of course here we're not going to. Now the square root of 120 is 2 root 30, so that's 10 plus or minus 2 root 30 all over 10. So we can leave our answers as exact fractions. So if I need them exactly, I could have 10 plus 2 root 30 over 10, or 10 minus 2 root 30 over 10. Where does it cross the x-axis? It's exactly the same question again, just being asked in a different way. Because it's where y equals 0. So a is 3, b is minus 9, and c is 1. X is the square root of minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Substitute our values in, so I get minus 9, which is plus 9. That's 9 plus or minus the square root of minus 9 squared minus 4 times 3 times 1 all over 2 times 3. So I get 9 plus or minus the square root of 69 over 6. Square root of 69 doesn't simplify, so I get 9 plus the square root of 69 over 6, or 9 minus the square root of 69 over 6. And again, unless it asks you otherwise, leave it as exact fraction, leave it as exact answers. And then does this cross the x-axis? Y is equal to 5x squared plus 6x plus 2. Now we just looked at, that means that it's going to have a y value of 0. So it's the same as trying to work out 5x squared plus 6x plus 2 equals 0. So a is 5, b is 6 and c is 2. I know that x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now I'm just interested in the b squared minus 4ac at the moment, because that's the discriminant. So b squared is 6 squared minus 4 times 5 times 2, which is the square root of minus 4. Now, unless I'm using complex numbers, I'm not going to get a square root of minus 4. So for the purposes of this, because we get a negative discriminant, because I'd be getting minus 6 plus or minus the square root of minus 4 all over 10, I say there are no solutions, as b squared minus 4ac is negative. I hope that helps. Thanks very much.